Today we're starting a new unit on graphing and transformations and reflections and all those fun things. This lesson is an introduction to coordinate systems, and it will cover pages 146 and 148 in your Jump Math book. Question number 1 is going to ask you to fill the coordinates for the given point. So we're just writing ordered pairs, which is something we reviewed in a previous unit. So when we're writing our ordered pairs, you'll find the point that is marked by this letter, so A would be here, and our ordered pairs, we always look at our X value first, which is down, and our Y value second, which is left, which is where they got 1 and 5. So for B, look at your X axis first, so it goes down, so this is your first value, and then go across. Now, there's no number here, but you can probably fill in that if it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is 6. When we are looking at graphing, we will start to look at both positive and negative X and Y values. So our X axis is horizontal and our Y axis is vertical. The very center will be 0, 0, right? And then as we move to the right on the y-axis, it will be positive, 1, 2, 3, 4. As we move up the y-axis, it will also be positive. When we go left on the x-axis, it will be negative, just like when we had our horizontal number lines. And the same thing happens when we go down the y-axis, just like a thermometer. It will become negative as we go down the y-axis. Now, there are 4 quadrants created by these kind of 4 arms, and they each have a name. So, our first quadrant is the one that we typically use, and so it's usually labeled with a Roman numeral, but you could also write first quadrant. Our second quadrant, we're going to be moving counterclockwise around the circle. So we'll be going this way as we're numbering them. So our second quadrant is here, where you have a positive X value, or positive Y value, and a negative X value. Our third quadrant is below it. So this is a double negative. You have a negative X and a negative Y. And our fourth quadrant has a positive X value and a negative Y value. So anything on the right-hand side has a positive X value. Anything on the left-hand side has a negative X value. The top half has a positive Y value. The bottom half has a negative Y value. Question 2 will ask us to use our knowledge about a coordinate Cartesian system, which I just showed you. So the first question asks you to label the origin O and the X and Y axis. So just like on the previous slide, your origin is in the middle, so you put your dot and label it O. And then on the sides, you can put whether it's the X axis or the Y axis. Then you're going to label the axes with positive and negative integers. So for each of these little ticks, you need to label. Is it positive 1? Is it negative 1, right? So going to the right, going up to the left and down. So once again, if you go back in the video, it'll give you those reminders. Number the 4 quadrants. So remember, we start at 1 and move to the left. And then which quadrant are these points in? So A is 3 and 3. So it is in quadrant 1. So you'll locate, here's B, which quadrant is that in? Question 3, we'll be using figure 1, which is on the right-hand side here. So in figure 1, point A, which is 2, 3, so X value 2, Y value 3, is the first in the first quadrant, right? So this is our quadrant 1, this is our quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Its X and Y coordinates are both positive, right? Positive X, positive Y. Find the coordinates of the point. So P, you would look here, what are the coordinates? Here's the X value, here's the Y value. So you're doing that for Q, R, and S as well. Then for question B, you're going to plot and label these points. So for B, 3 and 2, so remember X always comes first, so 3 and 2. So you would put a mark here and then write B beside it to label it. You'll do the same thing for C and D. Question 4 is going to talk about our second quadrant. So point F is at X negative 2 and Y 3, and it is in the second quadrant. Its X coordinate is negative and its Y coordinate is positive. So they're asking you to find the coordinates. So we're looking for K, L, M, and N. Then they ask you to plot and label G, H, and I. So for G, you could look at, okay, here's negative 3 and here's positive 2. So you would mark your point and then label it G. Question 5 and 6 are similar, but they're going to be dealing with the third and the fourth quadrant in the Cartesian plane. So question 5 in figure 2, point A, so where's A? Here it is X negative 2, Y negative 3 is in the third quadrant. It has a negative X coordinate and a negative Y coordinate. So we're finding the points for K, L, M, and N. Remember that you always go to the X coordinate first and then to the Y coordinate. And then you're going to label the following 3 points. So B, negative 3, negative 4, mark it and label it. Question 6 is going to say that point F is X positive 2 and Y negative 3. It's in the fourth quadrant. It has a positive X coordinate and a negative Y coordinate. And so now you're going to find the ordered pairs for each of the other points. So you're looking for P, Q, R, and S. So we always look at X first and then Y. And then you'll plot the last 4 points. So you'll look for G, X3, Y negative 4. There you go, plot it and label it. Questions 7 and 8 are going to be using figure 3. So in figure 3, points B, 2, and 0. So the 2 is on the x-axis, the y is at 0, right? The origin is 0 and 0. The y coordinate is a point of any point on the x-axis is 0. So if you have a point on any of this horizontal axis, the y coordinate is 0, right? Negative 1, 0, positive 1. So find the coordinates of points P and Q. So P, your x value, you're sitting on it, and your y value would be 0, okay? Same thing with Q. What's your x value? What's your y value? And then your plot and labeling A and M. So you can look for positive 5 and 0, negative 2 and 0. Then for question 3, points D, which is 0 and 2. So now the 0 is the x value. So that's why it's right on this y-axis. And so any point, just like E, any point that is on the x-axis has, or the y-axis, has an x value of 0, right? Because if it was an x of 1, then it would be on this line. So x of 0 is the y-axis. So you're plotting and labeling 0 and 4. So you start with your 0, move up to 4, down to negative 1. And you're finding the points of K and L. So remember, the x value goes first. Question 9 is going to be using figure 4. So part A says to find the coordinates of the points. So you're locating each of them. O will often be where our origin is. So that would be your x value is 0, your y value is 0. So you would write both of those there. P, what is your x value? What is your y value? So you'll go and label all of those ordered pairs. Then for B, it asks you to plot and label each of these points. So for A, you go, okay, I need an x value of 3 and a y value of 4. Plot it, label it. Then you're going to sort the points in figure 4 by location. So which points are in the first quadrant? So once you finish plotting everything, you're going to be looking to see what is in this quadrant, but realize that doesn't mean it's on the line, okay? So it's not including T and O and Q. It's including all of the other things. Second quadrant, right? So is here, third quadrant, fourth quadrant. On the x-axis means all of the numbers that are actually on the line. At y-axis, all the letters that are actually on this line. And at the origin means it's where the two lines intersect. Finally, for question 10, you're going to look at which quadrant is each point in. So if you have a negative x value and a positive y value, okay, here's a negative x would be on the left, positive y would be going up, so it's going to be in the second quadrant. Okay, so just kind of think of where it goes. Start with a positive x, negative y. Negative x, negative y, positive x, positive y, right? What quadrant does that create? And then you're done. So feel free to reach out, send a comment if you need any help. There'll be a few questions on a Google form for you to fill out when you're finished this lesson. And I will see you soon.